April 2021 marks the 25th annual celebration of poets and poetry. Launched by the Academy of American Poets in April 1996, National Poetry Month reminds the public that poets have an integral role to play in our culture and that poetry matters. Here at IMS, we wanted to celebrate Poetry Month by sharing some of our favorite poems.
Hi, I'm Ms. Johnson. I'm going to share two poems with you. The first is Sonnet 96 by William Shakespeare. Some say thy fault is youth, some wantonness. Some say thy grace is youth and gentle sport. Both grace and faults are loved of more and less. Thou makest false graces, that to thee resort as on the finger of a throned queen. The basest jewel would be well esteemed. So are those errors that in thee are seen, to truths translated and for true things deemed. How many lambs might the stern wolf betray, if, like a lamb, he could his looks translate? How many gazers wouldst thou lead away, if thou couldst use the strength of all thy state? But do not so. I love thee in such sort, as thou being mine, mine is thy good report. The second one, you can see Abner in the background really enjoys Shakespeare. The second poem is called The Crocodile's Toothache, and it is by Shel Silverstein. So, the crocodile went to the dentist, and he sat down in the chair, and the dentist said, "Well, tell me, sir, why does it hurt, and where?" And the crocodile said, "I'll tell you the truth, I've got a terrible ache in my tooth." And he opened his jaws so wide, the dentist, he climbed right inside. The dentist laughed, "Oh, isn't this fun?" as he pulled the teeth out one by one. The crocodile cried, "You're hurting me so. Please put down your pliers and let me go." But the dentist laughed with a ho ho, and he said, "I've still got 12 to go. Oops, that's the wrong one, I confess. But what's one crocodile tooth, more or less?" And suddenly the jaws went snap, and the dentist was gone, right off the map. To north or south or east or west, he left no forwarding address. But what's one dentist, more or less?
Hi, my name is Miss Swope, and I teach 8th grade language arts and leadership, and I'm excited to share with you my favorite poem by my favorite author and writer, Maya Angelou. It's called Caged Bird. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade wind soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
Now dogs pretend they like to fight. They often bark, more seldom bite. But yet a dog is on the whole what you would call a simple soul. Of course, I'm not including peaks and such fantastic canine freaks. The usual dog about the town is much inclined to play the clown, and far from showing too much pride, is frequently undignified.
Hi, I'm Miss Biggs, and I'm going to read you a poem by Joy Harjo. She was designated Poet Laureate, U.S. Poet Laureate in 2019. She's also a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. This poem is called Eagle Poem. To pray, you open your whole self, to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to the whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing and in languages that aren't always sound but other circles of motion. Like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, and wind swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you. We see ourselves and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within true circle of motion. Like eagle rounding out the morning inside us, we pray it will be done in beauty and in beauty. Thanks.
This is a poem called Harmony Enemy by Buddy Wakefield. And I might tear up, so I'm sorry. Everybody's got a story that comes from an awful story that lives inside a story that's dead. Stop telling it. Perfect probably isn't what you think it is. What are we even aiming at when we use that word? There will be a lot of shooting. Most of it won't be straight. Don't worry. You don't have to be good at everything. There are so many people here. If you really want to do something flawless, stay present. Your fate is just another word for now, just another name for transmute density. These bodies are a sticky hologram. Being human does not require any further context. Your expectations of me are not my responsibility. Those are yours. Everyone gets the same amount of time to live their lives. I want to be a reliable narrator for a living, so I'll just tell you the worst of it first and be done with it. Realizing the transparency of my neediness was dignity well spent. Forgiveness is a matter of advocating for dignity. When my body came home from the shame experiment, the first thing I saw was its resolve. If you still aren't willing to cut every loss, you are not yet prepared to qualify. Cut the loss, the story of it. I stopped being nostalgic when I started keeping up. Seeing a man run as fast as he can still gives me goosebumps. I'm not scared to die, I just don't want it to hurt. I bet the biggest misconception about death is that we won't care anymore. I will never not love you. Hiding the absence of your love is a mathematical impossibility. You were the year I wished on my life on other people. Magnets are incapable of lying. Perfect was incapable of telling the truth. Darkness is redundant. I wanted us to be the truth. I meant to do it correctly. There is every such thing. We were every such thing. I may have been grossly underprepared to receive love. Was it even in this lifetime that we knew each other? Tonight, I painted my apartment and remembered every life I've ever lived, including the one where you read this. Was I really too sensitive? Or were you just too unconscious? And if you weren't too unconscious, then were you just being cruel? Maybe we work our way to the middle. Maybe we work our way into what we are. Why don't you want to know what we are? I'll cut your costume loose, cut you right out of it. When something is absent, it is absolutely not in your way. Get in my way. Come remind me what we are together. Do it soon. Sorry. Soon we will have to say what we have to say to each other's faces. Mine is I love you. Sorry, I can't get all emotional about poetry. I just wanted to throw something as hard as I could. I wasn't paying attention to what it would do when it landed.
I'm going to share a poem called The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper. It is part of a winter holiday tradition for my family and me, and the title is a reference to the winter solstice, which connects to astronomy, one of my favorite topics to teach. So the shortest day came and the year died, and everywhere down the centuries of the snow-filled world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their houses with evergreens. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them, echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends and hope for peace. And so do we, here, now, this year, and every year.
Hello, IMS poets. This is your friendly security liaison, Mindy. I am here to share with you a poem. It resonates with me because my given name is Melinda. I have 1,000 people in my family with the middle name May, and my grandmother thinks that you need to chew 75 times before swallowing. Yeah, she's serious about it. So, a poem that's always stuck out to me is Melinda May by Shel Silverstein. Have you ever heard of tiny Melinda May? She ate a monstrous whale. She thought she could. She said she would, so she started right at the tail. And everyone said, "You're much too small," but that didn't bother Melinda at all. She took little bites and chewed very slow, just like a good girl should. And in 89 years, she ate that whale because she said she would. The end. She put her mind to something and she did it. She completed it. She met her goal. It took her 89 years, but she didn't give up. Let's all be like Melinda May. Perseverance. We got this.
What's this? And then we can move it. So you can finish with all the other spots. Good job. Yes, you're really good at wiping the whiteboards off. Getting all the spots. Sorry.
Good job, gal.
A lizard ran out on a rock and looked up, listening, no doubt to the sounding of the spheres. And what a dandy fellow! The right toss of a chin for you, and a swirl of a tail. If men were as much men as lizards are lizards, they'd be worth looking at.
Hello. When I was in 8th grade, I had to memorize a poem and recite it in front of the class. I still remember it to this day, so that's the poem that I've chosen to recite for you today. It's called The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. So both that morning equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
What's up, dudes? Welcome back to Reading Poetry with Tommy. Hello, Miss Pooter. I'm going to be reading with my sister today. Riley, get into the frame, please. Okay, is there anything in your mouth? No. Okay, good. Sorry about that. Today we'll be reading Horton Hears Who by Dr. Seuss. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Nuo, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise.
So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sounds. That's fun news, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint help, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton, but who are you? Where? He looked and looked, but he saw nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air.
I'm going to start showing pictures. I say, murmured Horton, I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. Do you know what I think? Why, I think there must be someone on top of a small speck of dust, some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes.
Some poor little person who's shaking with fear, that he'll be blown in the pool. Blown in the pool. He has no way to steer, I just have to save him, because after all, a person's a person, no matter how small.
So gently and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air and lifted the small speck of dust and carried it over and placed it down on a very, very soft clover.
Humphed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Humph, too." Why that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that, why, there's never been.
Believe me, said Horton, I'll tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's 2, even 3, even 4, quite likely a family for all that we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to me, try not to disturb him. Please just let them be.
I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. You're the biggest blamed fool in the jungle of Newell." And the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What a terrible splash, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons drown. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away.
Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that small speck on that flower. And Horton walked worrying, almost an hour. Should I pet the speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small.
Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. "Speak up, please," said Horton. He put his ear near it. "My friend," came the voice, "you're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck to no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings, our floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores."
You mean, Horton gasped, you have buildings there too?
"Oh yes," piped the voice, "we most certainly do. I know," called the voice, "I'm too small to be seen, but I'm the mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you."
And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you drown."
But just as he spoke to the mayor on the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, What rot! This elephant's talking to Whos who are not. There aren't any Whos, and they don't have a mayor, so we're going to stop all this nonsense. So there."
They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, and a mighty strong eagle with a very swift wing. And they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant could even speak, the eagle flew off with a flower in his beak.
All that afternoon and far into the night, the black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones. He begged, "Please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks do." But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, "Quit your yapping! I'll fly through the night. I'm a bird, I don't mind it. I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it."
And at 6:56, the next morning he did. It was a terrible place to hide it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Find that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail.
"I'll find it," cried Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on that small speck of dust." And clover by clover, and clover with care, he picked and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover, he found that one that he sought for was just not around. And by noon poor Horton, more dead than alive, had picked and searched a pile of 9,005.
Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3 millionth flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, "tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?"
And down from the speck came the voice of a mare. "We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go, we dropped. We landed so hard that all our clocks have stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, our bicycle tires all blew up. And when we crashed. So Horton, please," pleaded the voice of the mare, "will you stick by us who's while we're making repairs?" "Of course," Horton answered, "of course I will stick. I'll stick with you small folks through thin and through thick."
"Humph," humphed a voice. "For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle, and I'm here to state," snapped the big kangaroo, "that your silly nonsensical game is all through." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too."
With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins and Wickersham in-laws who've I helped engaged, you are going to be rope and you're going to be caged. And for that small speck of dust, we shall boil it in a hot steaming kettle of bees on this oil. "Boil it?" gasped Horton. "Oh, you can't do that. It's full of persons. They'll prove it to you."
"Mr. Mayor," Horton called. "Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there, so call a big meeting. Get everyone out, make sure every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in beezelnut stew."
And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in Whoville Town Square. All his people cried out with fear, "We are here, we are here, we are here."
The elephant smiled. "That was clear as a bell. You kangaroo surely heard that very well." "All I heard," snapped the big kangaroo, "was the breeze and the faint sound of wind through the far distance trees. I heard no small noises, and you didn't either." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me neither."
"Grab him," they shouted, "and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knot so tight he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in betelnut juice." Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter."
Hello, my friends. I'm Mr. Rennie, and I would like to read for you today one of my favorite poems, Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, so long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through and through. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head, he went galumping back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy! Ho frabjous day, callooh, callay! He chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe.
Light streaming through the open window and streaking on the floor and walls. Evening sun streaking, breathing. Will it come here? Will it stay? Flash of light, blinding far as the eye can see. I know it well, too well, for that light is me. Do you think about the day, behind that black mask of darkness? A single thought beyond the madness, a single mind, awake, thinking. Snap, light pours from the sky, illuminating the clouds and all around. In a line, a shadow, it touches the floor. That is my sight as I open the door.
I hope you enjoyed our readings. If you want to learn more about National Poetry Month, visit Ms. Johnson and Ms. Pasquale in the library and visit the poets.org website. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.